Remember the first time when you build a web application and you were amazed by yourself and thought, okay, this is how the way web applications are built, but then you go to the next web application that you would like to build, which was bigger, and then thought, okay, maybe I need other developers to help me build this application. And when you got other developers, you made it as well and thought, okay, this is how big fine companies are actually building their own software. But when you graduate and go into the workforce, you find there is multiple jobs that surrounding the software developer. It's not only software developer, you hear about product managers, QA, UX, UI, testing. You hear about a lot of roles, and you started to wonder how software is actually built in big companies, like big corporations, not small companies or mid-size, but actually in big corporations, how it is being built. And in this video we'll discuss different roles, how actually software is built from the start of a small feature until the final release to production. So keep tuning. Software teams inside big corporations are not like very big team, like 700 developers in a single team, but rather they are divided in smaller teams, acting like a small company inside a team, because they have their own service, they have their own small number of developers. They're ranging between 5 to 7 developers sometimes they might go up to 10, but there is no like a monolithic team. We rather have small teams, which we would call it atomic teams or microservice team. They have their own concerns or their speciality or their own service that is inside the application. So a certain team might have their own concern for login only. Some other team might concern about sign up. Some other team might concern about protection or security or finding bugs even. There are different teams inside the companies, and every team would have their own stakeholders or their own service, like we said. But aside from all of these differences, all teams in general have similar roles or the main roles inside every team of them. So they mainly consist of 5 roles: software engineers, QA engineers, UX UI designers, product manager, and tech leads. Every team might have different roles, but mainly software teams would consist of these roles, like these 5 roles. So let's discuss how these different 5 roles interact when there is a new feature that is required to be implemented in our big tech corporation. So at the start of the quarter, C-level or top managerial inside our big tech corporation, they decide on certain business things that they would like to implement in the next year or even the next quarter, how much money they would like to make, what are the different big features from business side, not from the technical side, that would help their business to grow. And they decide with each other, okay, we would like to add a new way of sign up. We would like to add reward points. We would like to add a new design. We would like to add certain different features. And they decide on these big things. And then they pass it to our first role, our gatekeepers for every team, which is product managers. Or sometimes they call it product owner as well. They are the ones who decide, okay, we would take this feature for my team. Another product manager would say, okay, I would take this feature from my team. And they coordinate with each other which team or which product manager would take a certain feature for their team. So first step, a certain feature is developed on the C level, and then it passed to the product managers, and they discuss with each other which one of them will take a certain feature. Next step, product managers go to their own team and mainly to their tech leader and discuss what is the feature that they are going to implement and how they are going to build it. So the tech lead would know, okay, we need the certain service, we need to register something, we would need to build a new thing or change an old service. And tech leads as well discuss with each other how they are going to communicate with each other. So you could think of it as product managers discuss with each other on the business level, but tech leads discuss with each other on the technical level. So this is the part of the managerial, the side of the business. They all discuss how they are going to build it, align with each other, because You know, big corporations have a lot of teams. They might have few hundreds even. Like for example, if you go to Amazon, there might be hundreds of teams. So all of these teams have to coordinate with each other to align on the whole company at the end. Next step comes the implementation part. So after the product managers and tech leads align with each other, all other teams, first they go to the UX UI designer and they tell them, okay, we have this new feature, could you build the new design? They build it, they test it, they collect the personas, they know what are the different users, do some test cases, and then come up with a good design. Now it is ready for the software engineers to build it. So they are the ones who are going to implement this new feature. Software engineers starting to discuss with each other how they are going to implement it on the low level, like which features they are going to build, what is the service they are going to build. There are different AWS things they have to do, or infrastructure stuff even sometime. And software engineers are divided into two main roles, which is front-end engineers and back-end engineers. Front-end engineers are concerned about building the UI, how the different buttons, colors, themes, all of this UI things that is concerned about the application. And back engineers are concerned about the core business data and how the infrastructure with the back end on the server, like the API, different data, connection with the database, authentication, authorization, all of this stuff on the server side. And the front end side, they have their own concern. And I will put a link for a previous video that describe different roles inside the software teams, like front end, back end, DevOps, different roles. You could check it out and know what is different bosses. But back to our discussion. So we said there is the two main different roles, front-end engineers and back-end engineers. And sometimes they have a dedicated DevOps inside their team, which is concerned about building the infrastructure, building the database, make sure that the services are working 24/7. But in most teams, front-end and back-end know some basic infrastructure that is enough for the team. If they need very specialized things, they would call the DevOps team. Some companies, they have their own dedicated DevOps team that is concerned about the whole company in this case. But now after the feature is being built and it is ready, it passes to the QA engineers. They make sure that the feature is implemented correctly, the designs are correct, there is no bugs. Sometimes they know some hacking techniques, so they try to hack the system, find bugs inside the system, because you don't want a hacker to find it. When they find it, they leak some data. So it is better for our QA engineers to check for bugs, different vulnerabilities inside the system. And they also write integration tests and end-to-end tests. They also might review the tests that the developers written, because there might be some edge cases that require the review. And eventually even the UI UX designer might review this design, because like software engineers have eye for writing good code, but there might be small UI mistakes that is not apparent for software developers, but it's very apparent for UI and UX, so they also review it. And finally, when this all done, it is passed to the product managers and tech lead, and they see it and they present it eventually to the C-level and the whole company, and of course they roll out to production and their users start using it. So this cycle is very long inside big corporations, but the main purpose of it to make sure that the feature is built correctly and it aligns with the business goal at the end, which is making a lot of money. Final thoughts: you might think that this process is taking a long time to build compared to, for example, to startups and mid-level companies. The features sometimes are built on an ad hoc. Like I remember in one of my previous small companies that I worked at, we were building features on ad hoc. Like, hey, we would like to build this feature, I just build it and it is tested on the same day and is shipped to production the same day. But in big corporations, it doesn't work like that, because there is a lot of concerns that you need to adhere with. And yeah, it goes with a famous saying, I always like it, that if you want to go fast, you go alone, of course, but if you want to go far, you need to go together. So basically in small teams they go very fast, but they wouldn't be able to go far when there is a lot of things to build, a lot of features to develop. These small companies wouldn't be able to compete with very big corporations, because big corporations, they have a lot of developers and they could build multiple features at the same time. You could have hundreds of features in a single quarter. So that's why it might take long, but it needs to be built correctly and it is need to ship correctly. I hope this video added value to you. If you like to ask any questions, please leave them in the comment section. I would answer them, and see you in the next video. Ciao.